Welcome to CEO Insights. I'm Marilyn de Guzman with Investing News Network. Today I'm speaking with Christian Easterday, CEO and Managing Director of Hot Chile Limited, a copper exploration and development company operating in Chile. Hi, Christian.
Hi, Marilyn. Nice to be with you today.
Yes, good to have you. So, for our viewers who may not be familiar with Hot Chile, could you just give us an overview of the company?
Sure, Marilyn. Well, we're an ASX and TSXV dual-listed company. We also trade on the OTCQB under HCH. We've been developing a large-scale copper production hub on the Chilean coastline since 2010 with the company's listing. And actually, prior to that, we started the company in 2008 privately. So we have now assembled one of the largest undeveloped copper projects in the world outside of the major mining companies, a top 10 as rated by S&P. We have around 3.4 million tonnes of contained copper, 3 million ounces of gold in two very large-scale assets that are situated very uniquely at low altitude, right next to port, infrastructure, and on the Pan American Highway. The project has seen over $200 million of investment to date, and we're currently about to put out our first preliminary economic assessment for a combined large-scale operation that is positioned to have us in production this decade, one of only a handful of plus 100,000 tonne projects that will be in production this decade. And I guess that really has us firmly in the sights of where the copper sector is going to be requiring a lot more metal to meet the future electrification of the world and decarbonisation goals. So we're in a very exciting position, bringing forward a very advanced large-scale copper asset.
Right. So now your operation is in Chile, and I want to get your thoughts on a recent announcement by Chile's President Gabriel Boric requiring companies to partner with the government in any lithium extraction operations. So I wonder what your comments are on that announcement, because it's really been in the news for the past couple of days.
Yeah. Look, it's these kind of things that we always are appraised of and keep up to date with as an equity company, in Chile, and a significant investor in the country. We've been following the constitutional process for the past 2 years, which ultimately ended in no constitutional change, and we've been following the taxation discussions, which just recently in the CESCO week, the Boric government made some statements there in terms of its advancement towards proposing a further ad valorem royalty on the sector. Currently, Chile, and I guess why the world's eyes are on Chile, is Chile sits in this very unique position that it is really almost the Saudi Arabia of what is about to occur in the electrification of the world. It holds the largest reserves of lithium in the world, and produces about a third of the world's lithium, and currently produces about a third of the world's copper, two of the key elements for the electrical revolution of the world. And I guess, that means that the Boric government, in line with their policies, and in front of the next elections, which will decide the balance of power in terms of where things go, are making statements towards their initial commitments when they were elected. Lithium, I've seen these headlines over the past few days that lithium is going to be nationalised. So I just want to sort of put a fact check on all of the clickbait media that is being written right now. Lithium has been nationalised in Chile for 50 years. The agreements that Albemarle have out to 2043, I believe, and the current agreement in place with Soquimich, the only two producers in Chile, they were agreements that were made with the state and are in effect and will be in effect to the end of those contracts. What Boric has effectively announced is that now Chile and the state will be inviting new public partnerships with the state for new contracts, and inviting Sochi, and Albemarle to sit down and negotiate what their next contracts will look like. So lithium was classed as a strategic metal many years ago, along with other metals such as uranium, and those things are the preserve of the Chilean state. So this is about them putting out a roadmap for how Chile is actually going to start developing a huge amount of untapped lithium resources, and for that to occur in partnership with the state. So that's really what's occurred, and I think that Chile is very much in keeping with what is already established in the country. This is not a new thing that is occurring, as you would probably get the impression from some of the headlines going around, Marilyn.
Right. So it's something that Chile has been doing in the past. So I wonder though, as some a company that's in the copper sector, is that something that you're anticipating that Chile might be moving towards as well, or is that something being done as already, or in terms of
No.
part?
In one word, no. Chile, and you have to delve into the history of what occurred. The last time that Chile went down the path of nationalization, it created Codelco for copper, it created Sochi for lithium, it created CMP Cap Group across iron ore. So those were the three big Chilean companies that came out of that last period. And as history will serve, the reforms that occurred through the Pinochet era and a lot of the modern reform of the Chilean economy that is often referred to as the period that created the Latin American miracle, and the strength of the Chilean investment framework that has brought the world's largest resource companies to bear to unlock all of that revenue for the state that goes through copper in particular. And last year, I think that lithium might have just overtaken copper in terms of state take. That is really what has driven the Chilean economy, and the standard of living in Chile, and one of the broadest middle classes that has developed in Latin America. And I don't think that is something that any government in Chile, left or right, wants to revisit what occurred with that period. That I think that that Chile has really moved on from and evolved, and so I think that, in a word, no would be my answer to anything that is not classed already as a strategic metal for the country.
Right. Well, that's a very interesting, historical perspective, and thanks for that, providing that background on what's going on there. Now let's talk about your Costa Fuego project in Chile. Could you give us sort of an update on what's going on with that project?
Sure. Well, look, Marilyn, as a lot of people will have seen with our announcements at the end of last year, we were able to take a series of next steps on consolidation. We're really ultimately looking at putting an entire regional consolidation play together here, developing one processing facility on the coast, connecting in port infrastructure, power, taking advantage of all of the advanced permitting that we've put together over the past decade, and looking to leverage that against all of the assets in the region. We have a hub already that is being studied at pre-feasibility level for 100,000 tonnes of copper production and around 50,000 to 70,000 ounces of gold production annually, for a multi-decade project. And I guess we were able to put that pre-feasibility on pause, take an opportunity to utilize this year to see if we could scale the operation up towards a 150,000 tonne per annum play. And that would make the Costa Fuego project and Hot Chili the largest copper developer on the ASX by resource size or by scale. But most importantly, what that was about was getting the economics to where we've always felt this project could get to. 150,000 ton production bases, obviously give you a scale up and give you the opportunity to move towards first quartile total cash costs. And that is about providing a very robust new copper producer for the market in the near term. So what we're doing now is we're going through a growth phase. We've just completed a phase of drilling on new land acquired in an option agreement with Antofagasta Minerals. We'll be moving to a second phase program, starting to also hit some of our exploration targets on this very large land holding. And we're also very busy on continuing our discussions with regional landholders, holding other opportunities within this basket that we have interest in tying in. And obviously that's something that always goes on in the background with Hot Chili. We are known for our deal making. We have put the entire project and cobbled it together over 20 deals in the past 13 years on this part of the coastline, and we'll continue to see if we can grow this through further consolidation also.
Right, and I think, Anderson, one of the most interesting aspect of this project is your water supply. You've one of your part of your de-risking strategy is securing that water supply. Could you talk about that aspect of it and how it differs from from the other copper projects?
Yeah, look, I've been starting to speak about water more and more, Mary Lynn, and that's really out of the growing realization that we hold a very, very critical asset. And, it took us 10 years of application to secure our maritime concession to actually extract seawater. Our ore bodies are very favourable in terms of their overall recoveries, produce better recoveries using raw seawater. So, firstly, that sets us apart in terms of further capital that we don't have to spend on expensive pipelines to go to 4,500 metres and expensive desalination water plants that add an extra $1 billion on your startup capital. So we avoid that, and we now hold the license to extract all of the seawater we require for building this operation. It took 10 years to secure, and then it took another 2 years to secure the actual right of access on the coastline associated with that maritime concession. So 12 years has us positioned in a very unique space as one of the only non-majors holding our actual maritime concession. So that gives us the keys to the future water supply in the Wasco region. It's something that we're well aware of. It's a dollar sign asset if we wanted to sell it, but most importantly, it's leverage to us to allow us to dream a bit bigger on the project. And I think that it's one of the real key differentiator. If you look at some of the other peer projects in our space, not only do they have to wrangle with high elevation and extra capital required to build those projects and operating costs, but extracting water from the ground in Chile is something that will not occur for any future projects. And all existing projects are looking at extracting seawater primary and then deciding on whether it needs to go into a desal plant or not. So that is something that is the condition in Chile going forward. And we recognized that over 10 years ago, and we put plans in place that have us in this position. So what we have now is a lot of peer projects that are actually held up in terms of being able to come to production because they don't have those water rights. And if they are buying them or tapping off from others, then they've got a lot of infrastructure that they need to build. But no water will be coming out of the ground in Chile for mining in the future.
Wow. And, as you said, it's 12 years, right? That really puts it into perspective how long these projects take to develop, really, right?
That's right. So, having things such as water rights, we were also given the final connection to the major substation of the central power grid of Chile last year, having easement corridors, having the surface rights tied up. All of these things, are why copper projects, large copper projects in jurisdictions like this, they take about 20 years to go from discovery through to production. It's funny, often in Australia we talk about this, and you say those things, and the next question that you get, and sometimes from mining executives, is they say, "Well, okay, so what's stopping you financing this and starting to build it?" And you've just actually said what you've said, and it seems to go completely over people's heads that the time investment in getting one of these things up, and I'm talking about a meaningful production base in copper, 100,000 tonnes and above, is where that club starts. And without those projects, we have no chance in supplying the world the type of copper it's going to require over the next decade. And that has been, I guess, very transparent in most of the industry's expectation of where copper is about to go. So we cannot develop and put into production a new Escondida, the world's largest copper mine currently, into production, one of those a year for the next 10 years. It is just not going to be possible.
Well, the world definitely is watching to see, where the next new copper mine will come from. So looking forward to hearing more news from your company and your project.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, Marilyn.
Thanks for watching. Join us again next time for another engaging conversation on CEO Insights.